Aloha, and thank you all for being with us and for waiting. And, for most of you that have, and I'm looking at the names, most of you have been with us over the years outside with the big bell. And of course, with COVID-19, this is the new normal. So thank you all for being here. August 9 marked the day of triumph and of tragedy, the triumph of the end of the war and the tragedy of the beginning of the nuclear age. And since 1990, Joanne Tachibana, the United Nations Association, Mike, where are you? Mike Sheba is over here, and me from the Martin Luther King Hawaii Coalition. We came together to have that bell ringing ceremony for the August 9 of every year thereafter, and on the date of Martin Luther King's birthday celebration. So again, that's what we've done, and I'm so pleased that all of you are with us to keep this going. And so again, thank you. Now, just to let you know that at 4:02, there will be a moment of silence. So let's go. Thank you.
Ed, if you will try to unmute your computer and we'll see if that works.
I was just 13 years old when the United States dropped the first atomic bomb on my city, Hiroshima. I still vividly remember that morning at 8:15. I saw a blinding bluish-white flash from the window. I remember having the sensation of floating in the air. As I regained consciousness in the silence and darkness, I found myself pinned by the collapsed building. I began to hear my classmates' faint cries. Mother, help me! God, help me! Then suddenly I felt hands touching my left shoulder and heard a man saying, don't give up, keep pushing. I am trying to free you. See the light coming through that opening? Crawl towards it as quickly as you can. As I crawled out, the ruins were on fire. Most of my classmates in that building were burned to death alive. I saw all around me utter, unimaginable devastation. Processions of ghostly figures shuffled by, grotesquely wounded people. They were bleeding, burnt, blackened, and swollen. Parts of their bodies were missing. Flesh and skin hung from their bones. Some with their eyeballs hanging in their hands. Some with their bellies burst open, their intestines hanging out.
Okay, she says, at age 20, when the bomb was dropped, I lived in a town called Sakamotomachi, about 3/10 of a mile from the hypercenter, with my parents, 8 siblings, And as the war intensified, my younger sisters were sent out to the countryside. My brother was sent to serve in the military. On the morning of August 9th, several friends and I went to the rooftop to look over the city after a brief air raid. As I peered up, I saw something long and thin fall from the sky. At that moment, the sky turned bright red, and my friends and I ducked into a nearby stairwell. When the commotion subsided, we headed to the park for safety. My town was inaccessible due to fires. I stayed with a friend. When I was going home the next day, I was informed that my parents were in an air raid shelter. I found them both suffering from severe burns, and they died 2 days later. My older sister was killed by the initial blast at home. My two younger sisters were injured heavily and died within a day of the bombing. My other sister was found dead at the foyer of our house. There are countless tombstones all over Nagasaki with a name inscription, but no ikutsu, which is cremated bone remains, a very important thing in Japanese funeral rites. Excuse me. I take solace in the fact that all 6 of my family have ikutsu and rest together peacefully. At age 20, I was suddenly required to support my surviving family members. I have no recollection of how I put my younger sister to school, who we relied on, and how we survived. I am now 92 years old, and I pray every day that my grandchildren and great-grandchildren spend their entire lives knowing only peace. Miss Kumiko Arakawa, age 92, Nagasaki. Thank you.
Do we have a reader for the second?
You are only given one life, so cherish this moment, cherish this day. Be kind to others, be kind to yourself.
Derek, are you going to read that? Okay. Michiko Yagi, age 78. The site of the bombing, Matsuyama Machi, is now a pristine park. Back then, it was a bustling town where many people lived and worked. A single atomic bomb detonated 500 meters above the town, destroyed everything underneath. Homes and families disappeared in an instant. Humans cause war. Thus, only humans can prevent war. I long for a peaceful society where everyone can live with dignity and die with dignity. Peace is not something that we passively wait for. Peace is something that we must seek out and cultivate. Dear ones, please make Nagasaki the last atomic bomb site. Thank you, Michiko Yagi. So is Molly reading Shizuku Mitamura? Shizuku Mitamura, age 78, Nagasaki. Under the mushroom cloud, in a single moment, countless innocent lives were consumed by a catastrophic air blast, heat wave, and radiation. Those who survived were ravaged by radiation-borne disease and are suffering to this day. I am one of these people. War is conceived within the hearts of people. Thus, it can only be prevented by the will of the people. True peace is not achieved through complicated conventions or ideologies. I wish to cultivate peace within through simple gestures of love and kindness. Please cherish each day that you are alive. Let us all appreciate the peace that we have at present. Ms. Shizuku Mitamura, age 78. Thank you.
I know that there are other stories like this one. The video is, and the stories are available on the website. If that was just appearing on the screen, thank you so very much for sharing those stories with us this afternoon. With that, I'd like to move forward with the program. At this time, Mr. Mike Shiba, President of the Nagasaki Kinjin Kai.
Aloha. Good afternoon
Aloha.
to all of friends and viewers. My name is Motono Shiba. I'm the at present President of Honolulu Nagasaki Kinjin Kai. And first of all, I would like to express my prayers of peace in the 75th Nagasaki commemoration of and tribute to the victims and survivors of atomic bombs. 75 years ago, in August 6, 1945, the first atomic bomb was dropped on the city of Hiroshima. 3 days later, in August 9, second atomic bombs was dropped on the city of Nagasaki. These two nuclear bombs gave devastations of death and nuclear destruction. After decades, they still exist with suffering of Hibakusha and their family. Today, August 9, Hawaii time is August 8, the day of our Nagasaki peace. And as Nagasaki is the last Hibakusha, the citizen of Nagasaki pray that this miserable experience will never be repeated on Earth. We also consider it our duty to ensure that the experience is not forgotten, but passed on intact to future generations. Please join us as we hope and move towards a peaceful world without nuclear weapons. Today, I impressed so many Hibakushas at record. In closing, we hope this peaceful world will be continued. Thank you very much.
Thank you. In the morning of August 9, 1945, an atomic bomb exploded in the sky 500 meters above Urakami Cathedral. The cathedral had stood in Nagasaki since the Christians built it in the 17th century. Several dozen priests and worshippers who had been praying in the cathedral for the end of the war were killed instantly, and the building itself was destroyed. The explosion took the lives of many, many people, as we have heard, and especially the Nagasaki Medical College, where Nagao Takahashi was working as a doctor. And it was in his story that we get the bells of Nagasaki. The bells, for any of you that are Catholic, you know that the bells are rung at a certain time every day in praise of the people that have gone before. And so it was that suffering that he wrote about in his book, Comforting, Cheering, the Bells of Nagasaki Rang, the song, The Bells of Nagasaki, was for those people that had gone before. And he wrote this beautiful book, which we will see next, from our pianist, whose mother was Hibakusha. And it's in that book, and it became a worldwide success. And out of that, the bells of Nagasaki, they're everywhere. When we were in Nagasaki on August 9, as we went through the streets, you could hear the bells everywhere that just chime, 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 chime. It was the most beautiful thing you've ever heard. And so in telling this story, we have asked that we play it every year, every time we celebrate, because it is so much a part of the people of Nagasaki, and the bells were for the faithful, as the Catholics say, for the faithful departed. So we will ask that we play the bells of Nagasaki.
Let I'm very honored to participate in this ceremony. It means a lot to me because my mom was a hibakusha, a survivor of the Nagasaki atomic bombing. And my mom and her family were very fortunate because her parents and five siblings all survived without injury. Actually, my mom's family and Dr. Nagai were neighbors. In 1949, Dr. Nagai published a book called Living Beneath the Atomic Bomb, which was a collection of memoirs of the children who had experienced the atomic bombing. This is the English translation and this is the original one. My mom's memoir was chosen for the book and she told me that she was so proud of it. Because of my family's connection to Dr. Nagai and the Nagasaki bombing, I am just so grateful this opportunity to present this beautiful song, The Bells of Nagasaki. Thank you.
And thank you so very much for your presentation and those insightful words. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce Ms. Joanne Tachibana, President of the United Nations Association Honolulu, Hawaii chapter, to speak of the busiest day of World War II.
Shows President Truman signing the UN Charter, making the United States the first nation to ratify the process, right? Giving Americans hope for peace. This is August 8, 1945, you know? Instead of having a peaceful peace, it became a day of irony because on August 6th, as historically we know that Hiroshima was bombed. August 8th, we signed the UN Charter giving hope. Then within that next, August 9th, he authorized the bombing of Nagasaki, right? And you heard earlier the very painful testimonies of the hibakusha, okay? So it's a painful history and it's full of irony. And a good friend, a professor that was interviewing President Truman, you know, in the later years, right? Because knowing that, you know, was the bomb necessary to end the war? And historically, people have seen that maybe it wasn't, it shouldn't have been done, right? But President Truman told the author, I sleep well every night. I did the right thing, right? So he didn't have the consciousness of humanity in his heart at that time, okay? So, but he did sign the Declaration for the United Nations, and they wrote a little article that he never fully felt there was an important element that there was no, you know, usually when you sign important documents, you have a special pen that you designate. He just had a pen that was like a 5 and dime pen, and he signed it. He made no special notice of this particular day. But for us who love the United Nations, we are celebrating 75 years, right? And it still remains a beacon of hope in the midst of this pandemic and world crisis, right? UNA, United Nations Association of Hawaii, has its roots in the Friends of the United Nations, founded by Eleanor Roosevelt, who wanted citizens of America to be engaged in support of the United Nations. And the United Nations Hawaii is a product of this wonderful Friends of the UN from 1945. UNA Hawaii was founded in May 1968. We are celebrating 52 years of service in Hawaii. And our chapter motto is uniting the world with aloha. So we look forward to all of you becoming part of our UNA Ohana. Okay, thank you. And another, okay, UNA Hawaii, as Marshall mentioned earlier, has been a privileged partner with Peace Awardee and pioneer Marshall Joyner to host these annual gatherings. We have often been asked, why don't we roll the Nagasaki Memorial into the Hiroshima Memorial, which is a very recognized commemoration? Hiroshima is a sister city, so it gets more recognition. And it is held on August 6th. But we are staunch advocates for Nagasaki. We want it to maintain independence to honor the citizens of Nagasaki and the price they paid to end the war. So that closes that portion of, so I would like to bring the project, the Sunflower Project Hawaii. Maybe we get a sunflower picture up, that'd be really nice. Thank you. The Sunflower for Peace Project in Hawaii was inspired by a book entitled Choose Hope. Choose Hope was authored by David Krieger, the founder of Nuclear Age Peace Foundation, and Daisaku Ikeda, president of the Sukugake International Buddhist lay organization. Okay. And sunflowers, instead of missiles in the soil, would ensure peace for future generations. These are quotes I am taking from Choose Hope. Sunflowers symbolize a world free of nuclear weapons. After the Ukraine gave up its last nuclear warhead, the defense ministers of the United States, Russia, and the Ukraine met on a former Ukrainian missile base on June 4, 1966. They celebrated by scattering sunflower seeds and planting sunflowers. Why? Because sunflowers can remove toxins, including nuclear waste, from soil and water. Right? And today, sunflowers are being planted in the areas in Fukushima atomic disaster, nuclear disaster in 2011. They are planting sunflowers to detoxify the nuclear waste. The vision of our Sunflower Project Hawaii is to see that all people, young and older, join the movement to plant sunflower seeds and sunflowers in their gardens, parks, and all corners of the community, the state, and further around the globe to display their commitment to a world free of nuclear weapons. We are very privileged because renowned copper artist and peace builder Surya Kumar of the Mauna Arts and Cultural Center in Waianae, in Oahu, has partnered with UNA Hawaii. He has dedicated a portion of land to plant sunflowers and designated it with a beautiful sign. Maybe we can bring the sign. UNA Hawaii Sunflower Peace Garden. So we hope to take tours down to that peace garden, and please join us to truly build a world free of nuclear weapons. Can you find the photo of that, the peace garden? No, this is the photo. Surya had a Japanese artist make the sign for the garden. So it is really beautiful. It's in UNA Hawaii Sunflower Peace Garden. And he was so proud that when we went to visit the garden, you know, we walked through and he said, take a picture of that sign. This is your garden, right? So we want to make sure that we, as citizens of Oahu with sunflowers in our hearts, that we will go and visit that. So I go down every few months to check the garden. He said, come, the sunflowers are blooming, right? And then we donate money for seeds. So it is a wonderful place to visit. So we hope to take young people on tours eventually, right, as things get settled. So thank you, and please become part of UNA Ohana that spreads sunflowers, okay? Thank you. Thank you for letting me share this wonderful news.
Thank you so much, President Tachibana. To learn more about this project, please be in touch with us. You can follow a UNA Hawaii chapter on Facebook, visit UNAHawaii.org, and send an email. We look forward to your participation. With that, we'll turn the screen back over to Ms. Kobayashi to show a special musical presentation of Mika Erickson, presented by Mika Erickson. What a wonderful world. And indeed, what a wonderful world it would be if we could end nuclear activity. Wonderful. As you can see, everyone on the screen is offering a round of applause. Um, Mika, thank you so very much for your beautiful presentation. Mika is joining us here live in the event today, and so she's waving at us on the screen. Again, thank you. At this time, we will hear from Ms. Molly Sperry, the Director General of the Hawaii Baha'i Community, with an interfaith message. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, aloha kako. And I'm thinking that my message will be interrupted at 4:02. So we all know that. And just let me know and we'll stop, okay? So it's an honor, of course, to be part of the Nagasaki Commemoration for Peace, the annual commemoration. And it's such an important endeavor. We must remember the devastation of a nuclear bomb, and we must honor those who lost their lives or their lives were changed forever by this event. And it's important that we reflect and pray together to make a difference. In 1990, the inscription accompanying the gift of the Nagasaki Peace Bill, which we are acknowledging today, was a message of reconciliation to the city and county of Honolulu. It reads, Nagasaki, the city devastated by the bitter tragedy of a nuclear bomb, dedicates this Nagasaki bell as a symbol of rebirth of Nagasaki and the desire of its citizens for peace in the future through sincere reconciliation and reflection on the folly of war. citizens, the desire of its citizens for peace in the future through sincere reconciliation and a reflection on the follies of war, which is what we're about today. What a brave and bold gesture this gift represents. A peace offering, an apology for Japan's December 7th bombing of Oahu, a remembrance of past harm, much of which we inflicted, and a tangible step towards peace. Today we remember with tearful hearts the suffering caused by nuclear attacks. We pray fervently for the victims. And in keeping with the desires of the citizens of Nagasaki, we do more. We do more through our reflections on the folly and destruction of war, and by our own promotion of peace, cooperation, universal compassion, and right action.
It's 4:02. Thank you.
Today, we remember with tearful hearts the suffering caused by the nuclear attacks, and that is what we just did. And we pray fervently for the victims, which we just did. And in keeping with the desires of the citizens of Nagasaki, we do more. We do much more. We do more through our reflections on the folly and destruction of war, and by our own promotion of peace, cooperation, universal compassion, and right action. During World War I, another world conflagration, Abdu'l-Baha, the son of Baha'u'llah, the prophet founder of the Baha'i faith, clearly laid out the stark juxtaposition of war and peace in a tablet to the Central Organization for Durable Peace in The Hague, the Netherlands. He wrote, "War is destruction, while universal peace is construction. War is death, while peace is life. War is rapaciousness and bloodthirstiness, while peace is beneficence and humaneness. War is darkness upon darkness, while peace is heavenly light. War is the destroyer of the edifice of mankind, while peace is the everlasting life of the world of humanity. War is like a devouring wolf, while peace is like the angels of heaven. War is the struggle for existence, while peace is mutual aid and cooperation among the peoples of the world, and the cause of good pleasure of the true one in the heavenly realm." He noted at that time, "There is not one soul whose conscience does not testify that in this day there is no more important matter in the world than that of universal peace." And that was 100 years ago. Today, decades of harsh experience later, humanity still longs for peace. And in these days, in this worldwide pandemic, we yearn for the health and well-being of our world, which we know is a manifestation of peace. The core of our religions, our consciousness, our hearts, call for it. Abdu'l-Baha also detailed the pernicious and pervasive influence of ongoing brutal conflicts, which we continue to experience across our globe. In reality, he wrote, war is continuous. The moral effect of the expenditures of colossal sums of money for military purposes is just as deteriorating as the actual war and its train of dreadful carnage and horrors. The ideal and moral forces of contending parties become barbaric and bestial. The spiritual powers are stunted, and the laws of divine civilization are disregarded. Such a financial drain ossifies the veins and muscles of the body politic and congeals the delicate sensibilities of the spirit. We know it. The sincere and thoughtful group gathered here today virtually, indeed, is made up of those who recognize the folly of war, the folly of conflict, and are concerned with the furtherance of peace and of the world well-being. The observations and reflections this afternoon should serve to compel us to enhanced action. Please join me in prayer. Let us pray for the success of all those who labor for peace, and for those who labor for the health and well-being of every human being in every country, of every race and nationality, of every religion. Oh my God, assist thou all of them, and pour upon them the showers of thy supreme confirmations, so that they may become the cause of tranquility of the world of creation, to be servants of the human race, to become with all their hearts and souls the real friends of all nations, to become with the utmost joy and fragrance the spiritual companions of the adherents of all religions, to dispel the darkness of strangeness and to spread the lights of friendship in this transitory world. God is most gracious. Because Baha'is and others understand that even thoughts of war bring destruction to all harmony, well-being, restfulness, and content. I close today with a simple charge, also from Abdu'l-Baha, a charge that we can respond to right now and forever, and words that speak to the importance of the act of our reflection this afternoon. I charge you all that each one of you concentrate all your thoughts, all the thoughts of your heart, on love and unity. When a thought of war comes, oppose it by a stronger thought of peace. A thought of hatred must be destroyed by a more powerful thought of love. Again, thank you for the opportunity to participate as a member of a faith group and in this very important commemoration and reflection.
In a moment, we'll have an opportunity to hear ways of taking action, but first, a moment of reflection with a musical presentation of Let There Be Peace.
Thank you.
on earth and let it begin with me. Beautiful. I can see that many of us were moved by that presentation. Again, thank you, Director General Sperry, for your words of inspiration and direction. And with that, I'd like to invite Mr. Joshua Cooper, who serves as a regional representative of the United Nations Association of the United States of America's National Council, to share some opportunities for taking action.
Aloha, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us on this anniversary of Nagasaki. I was one of the fortunate ones to receive a Goto Fellowship, and with that, we're able to build the bridge of peace between Hawaii and Japan and go to Hiroshima. But I also made the voyage to make sure that I was also able to go to Nagasaki as well. We must never forget the barbarity and replace it with beauty. And we must always make sure that the wrongs of history are replaced with human rights of today. And it's an honor to share this message with you. What's also important to know is that we're not alone. People around the planet are coming together to demand never again. And they're standing city to city, community to community, but more importantly, at the global level to focus on the abolition of nuclear weapons. Just in 2017, the international campaign to abolish nuclear weapons was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. And that association continues to organize on a daily basis. They just worked and partnered creating the Hiroshima-Nagasaki Accord. And I just shared with you that petition that you can sign, and its voices for a world free of nuclear weapons. And what they called for is 9 things. They say, if you're young, demand urgent government action before these weapons rob you and your children of a future. If you're a diplomat, keep pounding away on the fulfillment of legal commitments already contained in treaties and force that call for the reduction and elimination of the threat posed by these weapons. And on an exciting note, the UN Human Rights Committee also began to look at that under the right to life. If you're a religious leader, as many of you are here today, and we thank you for joining us, pray, preach, prophecy to stop the nuclear end of the world. If you're not informed on these matters, I think by joining today, you've become educated. You could subscribe to a nuclear newsletter and wake up and be more involved. If you're a politician, and we know today's an election day, and we hope many of those who are elected carry this message with them forward, join parliamentarians and leaders worldwide who are working to stop the modernization, expansion of the capacity of nuclear weapons in quality and quantity, and advance policies and legislation that reduces the threat of the use of weapons, stop their spread, and leads to their elimination. And we know last year at the mayor's conference, that was a big push, and we partnered here with UNA as well as HIHR to mobilize for that. The other is, if you're a citizen, join a nuclear weapons abolition group, march in the streets, write letters, pray fervently, and demand that institutions stop investing in nuclear weapon industry. If you're a scientist, don't be used by politicians who champion nuclear stockpiles. Find solidarity in your ranks and reach across national boundaries to scientists in other countries. If you're an environmentalist, recognize that nuclear weapons are the immediate and ultimate climate change for all time. It was brought up very well at our Human Rights Day when the Golden Rule was here in Hawaii, when they were saying they were looking at all the important issues, and they said, if we don't take care of nuclear, it'll take care of us, and that's important. And finally, if you're a nation armed with nuclear weapons, join with other nuclear nations to establish a joint enterprise committed to working for the elimination of nuclear weapons. And we're fortunate in Hawaii to also be part of the Pacific, which is also a nuclear-free and independent zone. So we can look at that. Another important thing at the national level, though, that definitely deserves attention is the amazing work of Peace Action. Peace Action is a national NGO, and the Peace Action movement is pretty powerful. So that was just the Hiroshima and Nagasaki Accord, which I just shared with you. But the next thing we're going to share and talk about is Peace Action. And Peace Action is actually asking us to put pressure on our elected officials, our US Senate, our US House. And if you look at that, we have the demand US federal lawmakers to pledge for nuclear disarmament for the 75th anniversaries of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And that one has already gathered 33,425 signatures. And I also put that in your box. So it's showing Americans supporting the Hibakusha and over 10 million Japanese community members by calling on our federal government to work towards the elimination of all nuclear weapons as we fight for a livable future for our global communities. And you can sign now if you click on the link that I put in there right about at the time that we are commemorating the 402 time, which unfortunately that rain of ruin showered down onto humanity with Nagasaki. And I don't want to take more time because I know we had a late start, but it's never too late for you to get involved. And as you can see now, that's the campaign action there on your screen, and everyone can be involved. You can join ICANN. I see the memorial and the wreath there, and I was one of the people there with the Goto Fellowship at that, sharing with the wreaths and meeting with the people of Japan and offering condolences, and also more importantly, pledging my life to make sure that we work towards liberation and that we put all of our efforts towards a better world. And as we're living and find ourselves in a pandemic, it's important to pledge ourselves towards a life of peace, because there's really nothing that matters more than that. And we all know that that is how we want to live. And we more importantly, that's the world we want for the future generations, which is right there in Ari and Zephany's home. And we'll be able to have that story one day of a world of peace, justice, love, joy, liberation, and human rights for all. So maluhia me kapono, and thank you for your time and joining us today.
With that, I'd like to invite, if anyone has their own personal bells, and this is going to be the first of 2 opportunities for those who are joining us in the Zoom room to come on to camera and participate. In just a moment, we'll have the live bell ringing from the Nuanu Myohoji Temple. Again, if you'd like to come on camera, and if you have a bell, please ring it as well. Thank you. For those who have just joined us, you've just experienced the live bell ringing from the Nuanu Myohoji Temple. On behalf of the Nagasaki Peace Committee, we wish to thank everyone so very much for participating in today's commemoration. This is our 27th annual commemorative event here locally on the heel of the 75th anniversary. In a moment, we will conclude with Hawaii Aloha for those who are, one moment, I'm receiving some direction.
Yeah, I sent you a list of a few dignitaries to read. I don't know if I texted you back.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
I will recognize those who are participating today. In a moment, we will conclude with Hawaii Aloha. So those who are joining us and not on camera, this is your final opportunity and invitation to turn on your camera, and we'll virtually join hands in a moment to sing together as we close out the event. Yes. Receiving some additional instructions.
I just want to make one last comment. The late mayor of Nagasaki Prefecture wrote, "Decades have passed since that last day. Now the atomic bomb survivors are old and passing away." And he asked us to tell this story repeatedly every time we get a chance, that they will not be forgotten. So we must tell this story repeatedly. Thank you.
And that is a direct call to action to everyone who is here with us in the Zoom room, watching live or watching the rebroadcast. We're certainly living in a precarious time, and we have an opportunity and responsibility to continue to tell the story. Madam President Tachibana?
Okay, thank you. We had some guests that joined us and wanted to say a special thanks to Naomi Masuno, the recently elected district governor for Hawaii. Thank you for making time to join us today. And we have Dr. Terry Shintani, who is the president of Knights of Service. And we have the peace partner, Jose Barzola, the director that joined us and helped us get the word out. So, and of course, our wonderful UNA board members that stayed on. Thank you very much.
And special thanks to KTUH Honolulu for live streaming today's event. If you missed part of the program or wish to share today's program or watch it again later, please visit the KTUH Honolulu website. To learn more about this event and the work of the United Nations Association, again, we are celebrating 75 years of the United Nations this year, and many other, this is a very special year, many other commemorations. We invite you to visit the UNA Hawaii website to learn more and to become a member. You can also follow us on the UNA Hawaii Facebook page to learn more about future events. Last but not least, and it's been said, it is election day in the islands and on the island. So if you haven't submitted your ballot by mail, it's not too late.
Yes, it is too late. It's too late.
You have a few hours to stop by Honolulu Hale or Hale to make your voice heard with your vote. The deadline is 7 p.m., so go get in line. Don't miss that opportunity. After the song concludes in just a moment, we will stop recording and you're welcome to remain in the Zoom. Again, on behalf of our peace partners, thank you for joining us for the 27th annual. We hope to see you in person next year. With that, please turn on your camera and join hands virtually for Hawaii Aloha, and smile. We will take a Zoom photo together.
Hawaii.